Yeah, Brian's an interesting one, right? He's really pushing this thing.
The optimization of everything.
Yeah. Although he just hurt his ankle. He posted a photo that he hurt his ankle. So now he's injecting BPC, body protection compound 157, which many, many people are taking, by the way. I did an episode on peptides. Mm-hmm. I should just say, BPC 157, one of the known effects in animal models is angiogenesis, like development of new vasculature, which can be great in some contexts, but also if you have a tumor, you don't really want to vascularize that tumor anymore. So I worry about people taking BPC 157 continually, but, and there's very little human data. I think there's like one study and it's a lousy one. So a lot of animal data. Some of the peptides are interesting, however. There's one that I've experimented with a little bit called pinealin, which I find, even if I've just taken it twice a week before sleep, then it seems to do something to the circadian timekeeping mechanism, because then on other days when I don't take it, I get unbelievably tired at that time that normally I would do the injection. These are things that I'll experiment with for a couple of weeks and then typically stop, maybe try something else. But I stay out of things that really stimulate any of like major hormone pathways when it comes to peptides.
That's actually a really good question of how do you experiment? Like how long do you try a thing to figure out if it works for you?
Well, I'm very sensitive to these things. So I have been doing a lot of things for a long time. So if I add something in, it's always one thing at a time. And I notice right away if it does not make me feel good. Like there's a lot of excitement about some of the so-called growth hormone secretagogues, ipamorelin, testosterone, sermorelin. I've experimented a little bit with those in the past, and they've nuked my rapid eye movement sleep, but given me a lot of deep sleep, which doesn't feel good to me, but other people like them. I also just generally try and avoid taking peptides that tap into these hormone pathways because you can run into all sorts of issues, but some people take them safely. But usually after about 4 or 5 days, I know if I like something or I don't, and then I move on. But I am not super adventurous with these things. I know people that will take cocktails of peptides with multiple things. They'll try anything. That's not me. And I do blood work. But also I'm mainly reading papers and podcasting, and I'm teaching a course next spring. Stanford, I'm going to do a big undergraduate course. So I'm trying to develop that course and things like that. So I don't need to lift more weight or run further than I already do, which is not that much weight or far as it is.
All right. You're not going to the Olympics. You're not trying to truly maximize some aspect of your performance.
No, and I'm not trying to get down below whatever, 7% body fat or something. I don't have those kinds of goals. So hydration, electrolytes, caffeine in the form of mate, and then this coffee thing. And then here's one that I think I brought out for discussion. This is a piece of Nicorette. They're not a sponsor. Nicotine is an interesting compound. It will raise blood pressure, and it is probably not safe for everybody. But the nicotine is gaining in popularity like crazy. Mainly these pouches that people put in the lip. We're not talking about smoking, vaping, dipping, or snuffing. My interest in nicotine started. This was in 2010. I was visiting Columbia Medical School, and I was in the office of the great neurobiologist Richard Axel, won the Nobel Prize, co-recipient with Linda Buck for the discovery of the molecular basis of olfaction. Brilliant guy. He's probably in his late 70s now, probably. Yeah. And he kept popping Nicorette in his mouth. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's this about? And he said, oh, well, this was just anecdote, right? But he said this. He said, oh, well, it protects against Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. I said, it does? And he goes, yeah. I don't know if he was kidding or not. He's known for making jokes. And then he said that when he used to smoke, it really helped his focus and creativity. But then he quit smoking because he didn't want lung cancer. And he found that he couldn't focus as well. So he would choose Nicorette. So occasionally, like right now, I do a half a piece, but I'm not Russian. So I'm a little, did you just pop the whole thing in your mouth? Mm-hmm. So I'll do a couple milligrams every now and again. And it definitely sharpens the mind on an empty stomach in particular, but you fast all day. You're still doing 1 meal a day?
1 meal a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a nicotine pouch with Rogan at dinner, and I got high.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's like usually 6 or 8 milligrams. I know people that get a canister of Zyn, take one a day. Pretty soon they're taking a canister a day. So you have to be very careful. I will only allow myself 2 pieces of Nicorette total per week. And you will notice that, in the day after you use it, sometimes your throat will feel a little bit like a little spasmy, like you might want to cough once or twice. And so, if you're a singer or you're a podcaster or something, you have to do long podcasts. You want to just be mindful of it. But yeah, you're supposed to kind of like keep it in your cheek and here we go.
But it did make me intensely focused in a way that was a little bit scary because
the nucleus basalis is in the, in basal forebrain nucleus has cholinergic neurons that radiate out axons, little wires that release acetylcholine into the neocortex and elsewhere. And when you focus on one particular topic matter or one particular area of your visual field or listening to something and focusing visually, we know that there's an elaboration of the amount of acetylcholine released there, and it binds to nicotinic acetylcholine receptor sites there. So it's a kind of an attentional modulation by acetylcholine. So you're getting with nicotine, you're getting a exogenous or artificial heightening of that circuitry.
And the time I had Tucker Carlson on the podcast, he told me that apparently it helps him, as he said publicly, keep his love life vibrant.
Really? It causes vasoconstrictions.
Like he literally said it makes his dick really hard. He said that publicly also.
Okay, well, as little as I want to think about Tucker Carlson's sex life, no disrespect, the major effect of nicotine on the vasculature, my understanding is that it causes vasoconstriction, not vasodilation. Drugs like Cialis, tadalafil, Viagra, et cetera, are vasodilators. They allow more blood flow. Nicotine does the opposite, less blood flow to the periphery, but provided dosages are kept low. And I don't recommend people use it frequently or at all. And I don't recommend young people use it, 25 and younger. Brain's very plastic at that time. And certainly smoking, dipping, vaping, and snuffing aren't good because you're going to run into trouble for other reasons. But in any case, and even there, vaping is a controversial topic. Probably safer than smoking, but has its own issues. And I said something like that, and boy, did I catch a lot of heat for that. You can't say anything as a health science educator, not piss somebody off. It just depends on where the center of mass is and how far outside that you are.
For me, the caffeine is the main thing. And actually, it's a really big part of my life. And one of the things you recommend that people wait a bit in the morning to consume caffeine.
If they experience a crash in the afternoon. This is one of the misconceptions I regret maybe even discussing it for people that crash in the afternoon. Oftentimes, if they delay their caffeine by 60 and 90 minutes in the morning, they will offset some of that. But if you eat a lunch that's too big or you didn't sleep well the night before, you're not going to avoid that afternoon crash. But I'll wake up sometimes and go straight to hydration, caffeine, especially if I'm going to work out. Here's a weird one. If I exercise before 8:30 a.m., especially if I start exercising when I'm a little bit tired, I get energy that lasts all day. If I wait until my peak of energy, which is mid-morning, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and I start exercising then, I'm basically exhausted all afternoon. And I don't understand why. I mean, it depends on the intensity of the workout. But so I like to be done, showered, and heading into work by 9 a.m., but I don't always meet that mark.
So you're saying it doesn't affect your energy if you start out with exercising?
I think you can get energy and wake yourself up with exercise if you start early, and then that fuels you all day long. I think that if you wait until you're feeling at your best to train, sometimes that's detrimental because then in the afternoon when you're doing like the work we get paid for, like research, podcasting, et cetera, then oftentimes, your brain isn't firing as well.
That's interesting. I haven't really rigorously tried that wake up and just start running or lifting.
This is the Jocko thing. And then there's this phenomenon called entrainment, where if you force yourself to exercise or eat or socialize or view bright light at a certain time of day for 3 to 7 days in a row, pretty soon there's an anticipatory circuit that gets generated. This is why anyone in theory can become a morning person to some degree or another. And this is also a beautiful example of why you wake up before your alarm clock goes off. People wake up and all of a sudden it goes off. It wasn't because it clicked. It was because you have this incredible timekeeping mechanism that exists in sleep. And there's some papers that have been published in the last couple of years, Nature Neuroscience and elsewhere, showing that people can answer math problems in their sleep. Simple math problems, but math problems nonetheless.